What a lineup. I'm going to start south and move north. So at the end of the show, I'm going to be talking about why are Americans so sick and why are we even getting sicker? My dear friend, certified clinical nutritionist Marty is here, Marty Whittakin, and she's going to be talking about, are you ready to take some courses on nutrition? She'll offer that. One of my favorite books I'm going to teach you about today. Susie is going to be here. Susie, our pharmacist friend, Cohen, the thyroid test. And then I asked the question, when you're studying pharmaceutical drugs, you can't give them to people when the people have cancer. You first got to give them to animals. Wait a minute, where do you get all the cancer animals? Okay, we'll talk about that. And then what causes diabetes? Jam-packed, I promise you. Today's show is going to blow you away. Let's get started right now. My name is Doug Kaufman. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. Okay, two new words in Know the Cause viewers' vocabulary, right? Chronic mycotoxicosis. Big name, I'm sorry, but you'll understand by the time the next 4 or 5 minutes is over exactly what those two words mean. Actually, Dr. Dave Holland and I, 15 years ago, published that we thought multiple sclerosis was a chronic mycotoxicosis. What do fungi make that are poisonous? Right. Mycotoxins. So a chronic mycotoxicosis is a mycotoxin poisoning that goes on and on and on, okay? So let's start here. We want to talk about cancer. How do researchers study cancer? It's a good question. To understand how a new cancer therapy or drug might work, researchers must study animals with cancer. Many of these cancer therapies are experimental and can kill humans. They can't be used for research. I know about cancer research. I know about grouping your cancer patients and telling them, oh, we want you 20 people to go this way and try this drug. Okay, that may have some good effects. Experimenting before you get those drugs FDA approved is kind of dangerous. So that's why we give animals cancer. Did I say we give animals cancer? How in the world? Wait a minute. If we could figure that out, we could figure out how we humans get cancer. I mean, they have two nostrils and a heart and lungs and bones just like we do. Let's see if we can figure this one out. Researchers give animals cancer so they can follow their experimental therapy from the beginning of the cancer until they either recover or die. How do researchers give animals cancer? Very often, cancer researchers inject study animals with a fungal mycotoxin called aflatoxin. Do you know, a short time ago, I brought you this understanding of diabetes. How do we give bunnies and mice diabetes? We inject a different fungal mycotoxin into them. It's called streptozotocin. In this case, aflatoxin is a fusarium mold mycotoxin. Okay, and boy, this stuff's poisonous. It causes cancer in humans. No, Doug, only in animals. Okay, that's not what the scientific literature says. Liver cancer is induced in humans with this mycotoxin. Aflatoxin is very toxic and carcinogenic, means it causes cancer, produced by the Aspergillus or fusarium fungus. When the animals get sick, they should be diagnosed as having a fungal mycotoxin illness called a mycotoxicosis. Let's take it a step further. A mycotoxicosis is acute, maybe for a few days, but then the lump starts growing. Right? The blood sugar goes way up. The pain is so unbearable you can't get out of bed in the morning, right? The MS has you wheelchair bound. These are chronic mycotoxicoses, I believe. And folks, it bears repeating. I'm not a doctor. I'm trying to teach you what I've learned through the years. Your doctor doesn't know anything about this. He's going to poo-poo giving you an antifungal. I think when I'm off this planet, when I go due north, I think doctors are all going to start saying, okay, he was on to something exciting, right? The good men do live after them, and that might be the case here. Okay, so they all get a chronic mycotoxicosis, but something strange happens after we inject this aflatoxin into them. Soon the injected animals take on all of the characteristics of cancer. But is it really cancer? Yes, say the researchers. No, says Doug Kaufman. These animals weren't injected with cancer. They were injected with a fungal mycotoxin known to cause cancer. This caused their DNA to mutate and mimic cancer. we've got to start thinking, folks. We've got to start thinking. Are we exposed to this aflatoxin? You bet we are. In the United States, aflatoxin have been identified in corn and corn products, peanuts and peanut products, cotton seeds. I got to tell you, tampons, I'm really convinced that the tampon syndromes are intimately linked with rarely those tampons being impregnated with the cotton. Milk and tree nuts such as Brazil nuts, pecans, pistachios, and walnuts. See, I eat a lot of pecans and pistachios, or pecans and walnuts, and I never worry about that. Other grains and nuts are susceptible, but less prone to contamination, says FDA Gov. Folks, how do we give laboratory animals cancer? We take this mold, we let it degrade, we pull the gas or the liquid off it, the poison. It's called a mycotoxin. We inoculate study animals with it, and I'll be darned, in a few weeks, they all have cancer. They didn't come into the lab with cancer, we gave them it. Are we exposed to that same aflatoxin? If you had corn for breakfast, you eat a lot of corn, you eat a lot of grains. Wheat is another one I didn't see on the FDA chart. You're eating a lot of peanuts, you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're on lots of antibiotics. These all expose us to these mycotoxins. Just be careful out there. Folks, why would a book published in 2003, Dr. Dave Holland and I wrote that, the Fungus Linked to Diabetes, why would that book be one of our best-selling books today? We didn't expect it in 2003, we don't expect it in 2015, 2016, but we may expect by the year 2030, your doctors are gonna know what's published in this book. I think there's an intimacy that exists between fungus and a disease we call diabetes, right? A disease of the pancreas. So what I'm going to do is offer you a cliff note. The next 9 or 10 minutes, I'm going to cliff note this book so that those of you who don't have to buy it or don't want to buy it or can't afford to buy it can get all this information on diabetes. We're going to take an interesting journey in the next 10 minutes. It's going to go a little quickly, but those of you with diabetes or have a loved one with type 1 or type 2 diabetes, this is must-know stuff, okay? Let's start by defining it. Diabetes, what is it? Diabetes experts that tell us that a breakdown of the islet cells in the pancreas causes or at least contributes to both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Islet cells are hormone-producing cells, one of which produces, you got it, insulin. And many people shoot or injected insulin into their body on a regular basis. According to these doctors, the body's immune system mistakenly destroys these beta cells. Doesn't anyone want to know? Doesn't your doctor want to know the bottom line question? What causes the mistake in my immune system? We're told, it's just a mistake, nothing we can do about it. Folks, I've got to tell you, I think your diet, I think the medications, antibiotics that you've been on, et cetera, I think alcohol, I think uric acid all play a role in this. But what role does it really play? Okay, let's keep going. You see, I ended up on this question. What causes the mistake? What causes any autoimmune disease? If you're not looking for it, you're never going to find it. Fungus and mycotoxins. Here we go. Fungi make poisonous byproducts, and they're called myco, means fungus, toxin means poison. Mycotoxins occur commonly in our grain supply in America, but consider that penicillin is also a mycotoxin. Folks, I got to tell you, penicillium is the mold, and the poison it makes is called penicillin. Ever been on the drug penicillin? Thank God it's a poison. It kills bacteria in our body in tiny doses. But what about those who are on lots of penicillin? Or when they were born, were on dose after dose after dose of penicillin? Could this directly or indirectly be responsible for a disease we call diabetes? Do antibiotics induce it? Which came first, the fungus or the diabetes? In 1976, Dr. Asaga in Japan discovers the fungus Cryptococcus in the islet cells of 2 children that died of diabetes. Later, that same fungus, Cryptococcus, was injected into the pancreatic artery of animals, resulting in type 1 diabetes that destroyed their islet cells. Cryptococcus fungus is also known to produce alloxin, a uric acid byproduct. Wait a minute, that's right, Doug. I have not only diabetes, I have gout. They tell me that's a uric acid disease. Again, what makes the uric acid? Not that you see it there, Doc. Where did it come from? The uric acid diabetes link. Wyatt in 1788 observes that people with diabetes also get gout. Is that you? In 1954, Griffiths discovers that uric acid caused diabetes in animals. But where does that uric acid come from? Svlia, in 1963, the year Kennedy was assassinated, discovered that brewer's yeast makes uric acid. Coleman then in 1990 discovers that mice fed even 10% brewer's yeast developed diabetes. 2015, 2016, most people with diabetes can have a moderate amount of alcohol, so says diabetes.org. Think that's okay based on where we're going? The mycotoxin made by penicillin became penicillin. The mycotoxin made by brewer's yeast became booze, became alcohol. Do you think it's okay if we suspect fungus and mycotoxins cause diabetes for us to be drinking alcohol? Don't go away. We'll be right back from this break. There's a whole lot more to learn on today's Know the Cause.
Have you been told your thyroid's normal and yet you still feel bad? Were you told you're just depressed, overweight, or menopausal? Kick a girl when she's down. I'm worried that your physician isn't using the best test to evaluate your thyroid hormone. They often use what's called a TSH blood test, and it's kind of old school. Getting diagnosed correctly is key to getting well, and I think the best test is a ratio of free T3 to reverse T3. I'll see you next time.
We had probably been seeing his patients for 2 years before a young physician by the name of David Holland came up to me and said, I have a gift for you. And he handed me this book, Principles and Practice of Clinical Mycology. This wouldn't mean anything to anybody else but David Holland. You see, Dave and I discovered back, in the 1980s that clinically, fungus is a huge problem in people's lives. Wait a minute, Dave was also a microbiologist. He learned that much about bacteriology, that much about virology, that much about fungus. And he thought it was unfortunate because he had seen some of these people we were working with together. He, the clinician, me, the nutritionist. And we were seeing when we put these people on antifungals like vitamin C and vitamin B and foods that would starve fungus, that they'd get better. This book is a must if you have an extra $300 or $400 sitting around. Published in 1996 by Wiley Press. Dr. C.C. Kibler was the editor. Fungal infections of the respiratory tract, fungal diseases of the eye, fungal infections of the kidney and those associated with kidney failure. Can it do that? Fungal diseases of genitourinary medicine, including fungal prostatitis. We'll talk about that at some time. Fungal disease of the GI tract, fungus in the bloodstream, in the ear, nose, and throat, on the skin, fungus causing big sores in the central nervous system, fungus in the brain, fungus in the heart, fungus in the bones and joint. The book expounds on what I had seen clinically for years and years and years that was brand new to Dr. David Holland. And don't you know, a couple of you have sent me a copy of this book. I find it from time to time. Now, if you're medically inclined, you're a PhD, MD, nurse, technician watching this show, this is a must-read. A lot of polysyllable words, very, very difficult. It's not the softball book. It's the hardball book. If you really want to dig into the eye and see where fungus grows, that's your book. Maybe you have psoriasis. Maybe you have migraine headaches. Maybe there's bloating, weight gain. Maybe you got toenail fungus or chronic vaginal yeast infections. Welcome Marty Whittakin, a dear friend of mine. She is a certified clinical nutritionist. Many of you know Marty from the books Natural Alternatives to Nexium, Maalox, Tagamet, and Prilosec, a bestseller. This was amazing. Or The Probiotic Cure, a couple of books she's written. She's onto something new here, and I love this. She has kind of formed a university, and she's got 30 courses in the can. Hey, that would be perfect for this, wouldn't it? In the can. And she wants to talk to you about gut issues. Those gut issues, course 1 is yeast, fungus complaints, leaky gut. Digestive complaints is the second course, detoxification and probiotics. The list is just endless. Congratulations on this. This is it, by the way. Isn't that great? A series of discs that you can study this, and I'm sure you'll go way beyond discs to MP3s or whatever. You know, you'll just keep growing this thing. What was the impetus behind this? I remember this a decade ago, and now this. You're going to beat that drum for a while.
Well, I think so, because apparently, judging from the sales statistics for Nexium and the like, and the TV commercials that imply that it's okay to take these for all the time because you never know when you're going to have heartburn, folks have not gotten the message that these are really, there's a reason we have stomach acid. We shouldn't block it. And there's so little understanding in the public. They don't teach it in school. Where are people supposed to learn? They don't learn it at the medical office in a 6-minute visit. You're not going to be taught about how your digestion works. And the root of all complaints, virtually all complaints, either start or at least worsen by a digestive system that is imbalanced. I mean, you may not even know that you have a problem. You may not realize that your bowel habits are not optimum. The doctor may say that's normal. Probably not. Might not know that you're toxic. You might not know that you have leaky gut. You might not know that you have a fungus or an imbalance of good guy bacteria to bad guy bacteria. All you know is that you've got a rash here and you're taking a cortisone cream for that, and you've got a pain here and you've got a pill for that. I want to cut through all that and get to the root causes and help in language, help people understand. I know a lot of people who bought my books, got it autographed and put it on the nightstand and never opened it. I want to make it easy.
You know what, Marty, when Marty's referring to psoriasis, rashes, folks, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said thousands of years ago that diseases initiate in the gut. He also said, let food be your medicine. We're not eating that kind of food today, and medicine will become your food. Boy, did we split that.
Got it upside down.
That's exactly, Marty, I listen to Marty on Saturday morning. She has one of the, if not the most popular show airing on weekends here in the Dallas area. It's called Healthy by Nature. So HBN, Healthy by Nature Show University.com is where you can get this. You would normally pay $150 or something to go see a certified clinical nutritionist and go over your diet for a half hour or 45 minutes. This whole course is less than $100. 30 subjects over 7 hours. Do you ever feel lost? You walk into a health food store, a regular store, are you lost in there? Do you or your kids or your mom and dad have tummy problems, bloating, belching gas? You got to fix the tummy, and then you'll fix everything around that. Isn't that, it's kind of a general statement, but it tends to be true.
And what's the downside of improving your digestion?
Yeah.
You know, there really isn't any.
Right.
And I always find that when you do something natural like that, people are watching for side effects, but what they get are fringe benefits. They're working on one thing, 6 other things clear up.
I heard someone call your show one day and said they went on your program, which is probiotics, detox, and so forth, as you'll learn in this digestive health educational series. And they went on it because of stomach problems. They lost 2 dress sizes, their headaches went away, and we hear this all the time, folks. You're going to a doctor for your bones. He doesn't know about your weight problem. You're going to a doctor for your migraines. He doesn't know that you also have toenail fungus. But when you get on the right program, everything seems to jive. How do they get this?
They can go to, they can call the toll-free number, or they can go to hbnshowuniversity.com. They can watch a little video about it. They can buy it online. Along with the discs, you don't have to get the disc, but you can, or you can just get online access for as long as you want. Watch it as many times as you like.
888-490-1116. 888-490-1116. Marty Whittakin, my go-to gal. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much, Doug.
You bet. You know, I speak to a lot of doctors nowadays. I'm traveling constantly, it seems, and giving a lecture. And I used to lecture to the lay public, and lots of people attended. And now more and more medical associations are inviting me to speak. It's quite an honor. And what I can do is take polysyllable words, deoxynivalenol, and make that interesting to the public. But doctors want to hear deoxynivalenol. So you kind of have to speak 2 languages when you do this. Here's today's message. Americans are sick and getting sicker, and I ask the question, why? It's got to be something all these 180 IQ researchers don't have a clue of. Trust me, it is. This is a slide that, as I put it up, it's 2 slides at these medical meetings. I wish you were there. I wish you could be standing next to me on the podium and watch, because the physicians' mouths just, we had no idea. They didn't learn this in medical school, but you watch Know the Cause. You watch our live program on Facebook Live a couple times a week. You know this stuff, so let's get started. Mycotoxins, these are poisons made by fungus. And I'm going to leave the first big word away because you're a lay audience, and I'll tell you about what it does. Number one, these fungi can change genetic material. Number two, they're capable of causing, dare I say, Parkinson's, when I say tremors and seizures. Number three, they can cause cancer. Number four, they damage our DNA. Isn't that what cancer is? Teratogenic. They cause defects to the developing embryo. Are you going with me on this? I mean, are you beginning to see something here? Wait a minute, Doug. Mycotoxins. Myco means fungus. Anytime you see myco, mycology is the study of fungus. It should be mandated in every medical school in the country. It's mandated in none of them because mushrooms are fungi. And so when you have a mycologist earn a PhD degree, he learns a lot about fungi. I wish they could practice medicine, because then once mycologists go in and examine a patient, they would say that cancer in his neck looks exactly like little tiny sprouts of mushrooms. Duh. Okay, so they can be teratogenic, defects caused to the developing embryo. Think about that. They're poisonous to our nerves. And that one of them, folks, by the way, two of them that you know about that are poisonous to our nerves, one of them is called alcohol, and the other one's called penicillin. They're neurotoxic mycotoxins. Alcohol and penicillin. Any of us ever had that? Next, they're poisonous to our kidneys. Let me go to the next slide. They're poisonous to our liver. They're poisonous to our bloodstream, like poisonous snake bites. They're poisonous to our heart and blood vessels. They're poisonous to our lymphatic system. They poison our skin, and most of them cause us to have an impeded immunity. You've heard the word, you're immunocompromised. Well, if you're going through chemotherapy, if you've had AIDS, you become immunocompromised. But from the disease itself or from the fungi that may initiate the disease? We're not thinking, folks, when I talk about why Americans are sick and getting sicker, Doug's hypotheses, the damage done by alcohol when you and I were 21 through 30 years old isn't done then. It takes a long, long time for that damage to be done. Same with antibiotics. If you took the antibiotics for an ear infection when you were 12 years old and your ear fell off, okay, cause and effect relationship. That's not the way it works with antibiotics. The damage done in the intestine, I think, can take decades and decades to turn into cancer, heart disease, skin disease, kidney disease, etc. Mycotoxins, be careful, know that word. And there you have it. Enough information. Can you believe we have to get animals to have cancer first? And we do that with fungus. Why doesn't every doctor in America understand that? And what about diabetes? You know, all the major illnesses may have, not do have, may have a fungal basis, and doctors need to begin studying that and offering you differential diagnosis. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Marty Whittakin. Most of all, thank you guys for being here. God bless you. Bye-bye.